Joe Rogan.
Yeah. We were told there would be...
This guy's recording out of his TV speakers. What the f?
No, well, there's two things that are insane. One is the targeting of migrant workers, not cartel members, not gang members, not drug dealers, just construction workers showing up in construction sites and raiding them. Gardeners.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Or Palestinian students on college campuses. Or not, like, there's a did you see this video of this Turkish students at Tufts University that wrote an essay, and then there's video of, like, ICE agents, like...
Is that the woman?
Yeah.
What was her essay about? It was just critical of Israel, right?
Critical of Israel. Yeah, I mean...
And that's enough to get you kicked out of the country?
There's a long history of anti-colonial activism in U.S. colleges, that led to South Africa changing and all of that, and I think there's a continuation of that.
In Rogan's defense, it was extremely subtle. Like...
And I don't...
Most unbelievable.
Good to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, Joe.
Wild times.
Almost unbelievable.
Yeah. The last time you were here, we were really worried about what was going to happen. And now it seems like we're in a completely different timeline.
Yeah, I have to say, in addition to being just overarchingly worried about what was going to happen to the Republic and to the globe, I was personally worried about what would happen to people like you and me if we lost.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be so good for business. They probably would have cracked down.
There's that, but I must say, on my darker days, I had concerns even beyond that. And
you probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah, in light of what we now know. It's this U.S. aid thing that's going on. Mike Benz has been...
Like, it was just so funny to me that after 4 years of Biden and literally nothing happening to any of these people, that after the Trump election, yeah, they were like, thank God, who knows what would have happened? And it's like, well, probably nothing. Like what didn't happen for the last 4 years. Pretty sure the last 4 years were literally the best years of your entire career. I think you got more money. When did he sign that $100 million Spotify deal? Joe Rogan, 100 mil Spotify deal. That might have been a Trump one. Initial $100 million deal was in 2020. Oh, okay. It didn't get canceled, and he re-upped. Yeah. So, okay. Rogan made fun of Dibble having cancer a few weeks ago. Did he actually make fun of him for having cancer, or did he just make fun of him when he has cancer? Rogan, Dibble, cancer. Jesus, I have stage 4 cancer? Wait, what the f?
Embodies what you don't like about academia. You see him physically, he embodies it. It's like that's what it is. It's these weak men, these weird, kind of bitchy, weak men.
Hey there, Joe. I just found out yesterday that you ridiculed my appearance in front of millions of people on your podcast. Here I am. I have had...
Okay, firstly, me. Don't make me side with anybody on this. I don't think that Rogan was making fun of him for having stage 4 cancer. He's making fun of him because... I like Flint Dibble. I think he's a cool dude. But he does have he literally wears a fedora, guys. Okay. Now, this is a retarded reason to make fun of somebody, especially somebody that you would expect to to look like that, right? Like, nobody wants to go to a college campus and their professors look like the cast of Fast and Furious 14, right? Like, yeah, what do you mean? How is this even a legitimate criticism? Like, it's retarded. And then also, yeah, remember how sensitive... I will never get over how much of a special fucking prissy snowflake bitch Joe Rogan was when the guy did the RFK voice. The most cowardly, oversensitive...
Robert Kennedy explained this to me. This is his words, not mine. But if he's right, it's the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. And I think he's right. In the placebo group, two people died.
I'm going to do his voice while you talk, if you don't mind.
Don't do that. In the placebo group,
You're actually such a fucking bitch, dude. All of these conservatives are cuck-servatives. They're such bitches. This is not AI. Yeah. Also, that Dibble guy. He was on our show, so I got to talk to him in advance on this, or not in advance, but afterwards. Flint is not like a debater guy at all. He was just like an archaeologist, like an academic. The amount of work and prep that he did to go on Rogan and to do that debate against, is it Stephen Graham? Was very impressive. His prep work was very impressive. The way that he described it was impressive. His performance was really impressive. And then for Joe Rogan to bring on Graham again afterwards and to dodge Dibble coming on, like he's actually such a bitch made Graham Hancock. Oh, he's actually so bitch made. God, oh my God, conservatives are just such weak fucking losers, dude. Like all the TRT in the world is not going to save you from being such a spineless cuck. Oh, Jeff Nippard. Exercise and vaccines both save lives. Vaccines prevent about 5 million deaths per year. Lack of exercise carries almost 5 million deaths per year. Yet Joe Rogan only complains that vaccine experts don't preach fitness and has no problem with fitness bros don't preach vaccination. What is this?
Optimize your, like if you want to optimize your health, yeah, right. Supplements are very beneficial.
Very beneficial, but I think for you and me, it's a duh. But I think for a lot of people out there, they seem to think that there's something unique about prescription drugs that makes them better than supplements.
Well, that's because they've been lied to.
Yeah.
I thought, hold on, where were the people in my chat that said Huberman was like generally pretty good on stuff? That was one of the dumbest statements I've ever said in my entire life. Supplements are like in a totally different class of things than prescription drugs. Like there are some things that you can get that you have to get via prescription you will never ever get in just a supplement, and they're regulated by. I don't even think supplements are FDA regulated. I think it's like a totally different group of things.
And supplements.
Well, that's because they've been lied to. Yeah. I mean, that's the real problem, is that the corporations who control these prescription drugs, and
why not the corporations that control the supplements? Why are only some corporations evil but the other corporations are so nice? Wait, how does this even make sense?
Sell these prescription drugs and sell advertising on television have got it into people's heads. That's why it was maddening when I had Peter Hotez on the podcast and he was talking to me about the importance of vaccination. And I said, do you exercise? How do you eat? Do you take vitamins? And there was zero going on with him. He goes on walks occasionally. Yeah. I mean, he eats fucking junk food. He wasn't taking vitamins. You know, he told me that some internist told him to take vitamin D. So he took that for a while. I'm like, for a while?
Yeah, D.
Like if you want to optimize your health, supplements are very beneficial.
What is the it's a totally different group of things. I don't understand what the purpose. Well, I know what the purpose is. It's just to ad hom, to try to attack the credibility of the medical information. Like, if you go to a doctor for doctor advice and you're like, well, how much do you exercise? And the doctor's like, oh, I don't really exercise much. It's like, oh, well, I can't trust any of your medical information. What does that even mean? Like, if I'm talking to a personal trainer at Planet Fitness and I'm like, can you explain like your portfolio to me for investing? And the guy's like, oh, I just stuff all my cash in the mattress. So, oh shit, well, I can't trust this guy's, I guess, personal trainer advice. Or like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I do know it's retarded. It's just retarded. It's stupid. Just hired an illegal immigrant to do some manual labor. I thought about how some fat American out there is thinking this is the reason why their life sucks, and made me laugh. Jesus Christ. Congrats on your slave labor. They don't know English because they were born overseas. What's your excuse for not knowing what words mean? Magatard. He made a Kino video about Joe Rogan. This one, the hour and 15-minute one?
People who are...
What kind of cancer does Flint have? How does he... Like, when did he find out? That sucks, bro. The Flint Dibble stage 4, what happened? Is he dying or what? Well, it depends on the kind of cancer. Some cancers, even at stage 4, have like super good prognoses, like very high survival rates. And others are like, you're like fucked. So I don't know. Melanoma. My non-Hodgkin's was at stage 4 and they cleared it in like 6 months. Oh, that's what my kid's mom had. I don't know for melanoma what the prognosis is, or if there are different types of melanomas there. Admitting to a federal crime on Twitter to own the whites? Hanania is a genuine human plague, something profoundly disgusting about him, especially considering his previous white nationalist LARP. You've been reported. Hashtag FAFO. Dude needs to get ripped ASAP. Thank you for admitting to a crime. Jesus. MAGA vs. Grok needs to have a dedicated subreddit. It's an endless trove of comedy gold. It really is. They keep saying that they've broken Grok, but I don't know. Every time they call him, I just see him getting... George W. Bush's highest deficit was in the 400 billion range. Obama immediately took it to 1.3 trillion. This is very well documented. You're correct. Bush's peak deficit was 458 in fiscal year 2008. Obama's was 1.4 trillion, driven by the inherited financial crisis, TARP signed by Bush, and stimulus. However, Obama then reduced it steadily to 585 billion by fiscal year 2016, achieving a net decrease over his terms. Wrong again. TARP generated a profit. Obama immediately passed an $800 billion bill right after taking office. It was not profitable. That is also not a decrease. Every one of his years were higher than Bush's worst. Fair point on TARP. It did yield a net profit of $15 billion per Treasury data. The 787 ARRA stimulus was spending, not an investment like TARP. Deficits fell from 1.4 trillion to 438 billion, below Bush's 458 billion peak, before rising to 585 billion fiscal year 2016. Not every Obama year. So one was slightly below his peak, but all were far above his other 7 years. Maybe stop lying to people. I'm not lying. The data is from the CBO and Treasury sources. Bush's deficits, 158, 378, 413, 318, 248, blah, blah, blah. Average of 305. Obama's from 2010 to 2016. Yes, most exceeded Bush's. 1.413 was Obama, stupid. You are making crap up in plain view. Every time they call Grok, they get so mad.
Oh my fucking God. Would you have voted for him now? If he, so I will, I do think that like overall, yeah, from so far, I would have gone back and voted for Trump if I knew what he did so far, but I'm still not satisfied. I am just barely.
Like that's, I don't know if anybody besides what, Richard Hanania? I don't know if anybody would change their mind. Like most Trump voters, at least the public people are.
Barely above 50%. I like this is, it's a good start, but I'm not.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, you know, how many people have been arrested? How many other senators have gone to jail? Like, I want more? Yeah, I do. I want more. I'll never be satisfied? No, I won't. And you shouldn't be either. Never accept mediocrity. Where are the Epstein files? Finish the job? Yeah, stop fence riding already? I'm not fence riding at all. My chances of voting for Kamala Harris were never higher than 1%.
What?
There was never a chance I would have ever voted for her. She was a retard.
What? She was retarded compared to Trump?
Of course not. So it's not like this is, I'm not on one side of the fence or another. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, as a voter, I think a candidate needs to earn my vote. And if I don't think that the candidate earns my vote, I don't vote for them. I don't vote for the lesser of two evils. Maybe in some cases I might. Usually I don't. That's my opinion. Would you vote for Obama or Trump? I mean, knowing what they did, I wasn't very happy with what Obama did. I like some things that he did. I didn't like other things. 100%, that's our voice as citizens. Yeah, it's that simple. And that's a novel idea. Yeah, and chaos voting. Well, we didn't really have a chaos candidate this time around, unfortunately. You know, ideally we would, but that.
I don't think anyone realizes how impressive Alligator Alcatraz is. The state of Florida built this 3,000-bed federal prison in 8 days. The director tells me it could have been done in 72 hours were it not for some regulatory holdups. Now all the state needs is DOJ approval to deputize the National Guard as deportation judges, and this will become the most efficient deportation center in American history. How is this impressive? It's just fences and beds. You mentioned before you were into N64 games. Other than Star Fox, what other games did you play? Too much Pokemon Stadium, Doom 64, Duke Nukem, Turok 1 and 2, Quest 64, that was a game. Mario Party, Smash Brothers, obviously. Super Mario 64. I played GoldenEye, but GoldenEye was not one of my favorite N64 FPSs. Every time you get shot, he would make that noise. It was so weird. Why? Why did he do that? Why did he do that? Oh, it's not even a fucking building. It's just tents. What are these cables connected to? Okay. Have you seen anything with Expedition 33? No, but I've heard good things about it. Are you allowed to go tour this place? It's probably like an hour from me. Oh my God, I should go here with Connor.
President Trump is talking about this bill leading to growth in the economy. We are waiting any moment now to get the jobs numbers for the month of May. The expectations call for the ADP numbers to be up 95,000 for the month of June, rather. It's the June jobs data, and we'll, of course, right now seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000 on ADP. The bill includes $25 billion for the Golden Dome, the missile defense system. Senator, you introduced a bill supporting the construction of that system. I want to get your take on defense and whether or not that, of course, President Trump is talking about this bill leading to.
It's funny, but I don't even think we need that many. I don't think we need more jobs right now. I think we need more workers. Everybody's hiring. U.S. unemployment. What are we at right now? 4.2%. I think we're still fine. We're still like over on unemployment. But
I mean, I certainly support a lot of additional reforms down the road that would rein in our spending programs and our spending addiction. And I support even more pro-growth policies that will produce even more robust economic growth. I think the tax cuts on top of better, more reciprocal trade deals that open up export markets, on top of the deregulation project, on top of energy dominance. And by the way, this bill has a lot of streamlining of permitting for more energy production in this bill. With all of those policies together, in addition to the tax cuts,
right?
You're talking about the kind of growth that we have to have in order to get our fiscal house in order.
Right, but before COVID hit, I mean, Trump was racking up, annual deficits of $779 billion a year, $984 billion a year. That's with the tax cuts. In the first term.
And
that was before COVID.
And of course, COVID was a big
factor.
And
no, but this is before COVID.
Before COVID.
Yeah, so look, the bottom line is we know we have to rein in spending.
No
and
answer.
By the way, this bill,
no answer.
Despite
no answer.
the static score of a deficit-producing legislation,
He won't push
this
him.
is the largest spending cut bill.
Can we import some British interviewers to U.S. media,
history,
please? P.F. Young defends removing birthright citizenship.
All right, last topic.
I feel like I can. No, I feel like I can already predict this entire argument for this. The entire argument is just going to be a strict, completely devoid of context analysis of whether or not one should be granted citizenship based on being born on U.S. soil, and without making any other historical or cultural considerations. He'll just say, oh, I can understand why this would be removed, which is true, but pointless to analyze anything that way. But
as you know, we'll continue with, my job is to remind my audience filled with Israeli settlers, radical black Marxists, and Destiny fans that you should steel man your opponent, and that allows you to then defeat them more easily.
In the bustling marketplace of ideas?
In the bustling marketplace of ideas, well said. Trump is trying to repeal birthright citizenship. You can say this is racist and disgusting and fascist as they do with everything he does, which again makes it difficult to properly label the things that he does that are disgusting and fascist, like the deportations of women and children and shit like that. But this makes perfect sense to me. There's not a single European country, not a single one.
So we're starting off with the comparison to European countries, which is again, I've already explained, that's not where our why we have birthright citizenship. So that's already a major faulty thing, but okay.
As birthright citizenship in the way that we do.
But did not our ancestors flee Europe to get away from stupid European laws?
Here we go. Okay, yeah, okay. Were you some 90-year-old Southern? Oh, I didn't know we fought a revolution. Cool. Okay, and I'm sure our ancestors said we should just have unlimited.
So here's the argument for divorcing it from history or context, right? Now, keep in mind when conservatives like history, so for instance, with things like the Second Amendment, it's the most important thing ever. Or when we're overturning like Roe v. Wade, now the historical arguments are the most important thing ever. But
machine guns and RPGs too. It's like the right to bear arms. They wanted grenade launchers in every school. That's what they wanted. They said that, isn't it? The 14th Amendment, first off, it was the 14th Amendment that gave birthright citizenship.
Yeah, let's read the 14th Amendment, shall we?
Please.
Okay.
Why do you defer to traditions and norms where I feel like in the past you would dismiss them entirely? It's a different layer to the argument. A norm or a tradition isn't a reason on its own to keep something around. But if something does exist as a norm or tradition and it's been there for a long time and you don't have a compelling argument to change it, well, then it probably should just stay, right? If the United States didn't have a Second Amendment and we had no firearms in the US, we had like 10 million guns or something, and somebody's like, oh, we should have like this amendment that lets us so every single individual can buy a gun, I'd be like, oh, probably not a great idea. But we've had the Second Amendment since the founding of the country. We've got like 400 million firearms here. Fuck it. Probably might as well keep it now. Getting rid of it probably wouldn't help very much. So.
14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States.
Okay. Now,
and part of this is deeply ambiguous to you.
It's not ambiguous. Okay, so two things. First off, it was not the founding fathers who wrote that, so it was not in the vision of this country initially. The reason it was there was a very practical and good reason, which was slavery. That's why the 14th Amendment was implemented, so that slaves were ensured would have citizenship. Good. It was not meant for, so if someone from Somalia comes through the southern border and has a kid here, now that they're a citizen. It's like, that's not what...
Like, they knew what those words were, right? Like, they could have written the amendment to say, only black people, or only the children of slaves, or only those subject to slavery. They didn't write those words. So, I mean, like, this is an emotional argument about how you feel they felt at the time with no actual factual backing.
What the purpose was. And here's the thing. All this would do, let's say birthright citizenship was repealed, it would bring it in line with every major European country and, frickin' Japan and Israel and other countries and shit like that. I think Brazil has the same sort of soil gives citizenship idea. Does Canada have it as well?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, no one wants to go.
Basically, all of the North and South American countries do. That's kind of important, but okay.
They all live in America. So, but my point is, I don't see how this is some, like, if we did this,
well, I mean, you can think whatever you want, but the fact is that we do have the plain text of the Constitution, and it clearly says all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States. And I feel like it is very difficult.
Sure, I'm not asking for your legal interpretation. I'm asking for the purposes of the law, the purpose of the law.
I do think this is important, right? Because we do have to obey the Constitution. We have to obey the text of the document. And I think that if you have like big conversations about what you feel is right, people can have abstract conversations about things that they consider the Constitution to be bad at or flawed ideas that are contained in the Constitution.
Conversations that matter.
Well, but then you kind of have to have a conversation in favor of amending the Constitution because that's the constitutional process to correct the problems of the Constitution. It's not to say, I don't really like this idea in the Constitution. I have a strong argument against it. Therefore, the president can just issue a executive order that says we don't have to obey a part of the Constitution that we think is kind of weird or dumb. Like, that is not how the American system works.
Sure, I'm not. Yeah.
And if you think birthright citizenship is bad, then you should be advocating for a constitutional amendment to repeal birthright citizenship. You should not be advocating for the president to put forward some cockamamie legal theory about why the plain text of the Constitution does not apply to the children of immigrants, legal or otherwise, because it very clearly does.
That's wrong. No, legal immigrants. If your parent is a legal immigrant, you get citizenship.
It says all persons born in the United States.
Yes, I'm pointing out that removing birthright citizenship means that if you are born of a citizen, one or more parent is a citizen, including a legal immigrant, that would make you a citizen.
Well, it would depend what the constitutional amendment would say.
Well, correct.
Right?
Okay, but I'm just pointing out if we adopted what is the norm across the entirety of Europe, for example, it would be that it's one or more parent is a citizen.
Also, I know for a fact that P.F. Young would never adopt like the free speech standards that don't exist in Europe. Well, we should just adopt the norm all across Europe. There's no shot, but
there's like certain things like legal residence for like 8 years or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, so details do matter.
Okay, but I'm putting forward the philosophical position. Yes, of course. Yes, we should probably minimize the degree to which we just trample over the Constitution. Okay. Nobody seems to give a shit when we declare war on random countries and just bomb, drop 30,000 bunker busters. So, I tend to take it less seriously, like, oh my God, the Constitution's over. But I agree, in theory it should be, in practice it should be an amendment. But I'm entertaining the philosophical case because there are people who are like, birthright citizenship is a necessary and fundamentally important thing. And I would say no, as evidenced by virtually, a ton of other countries do not do it. And it was very clearly that amendment was put forward to address a specific thing in history, which was slavery, which needed to be done.
Why doesn't it say that? Why does it say
yes, correct. Good job, JJ. Yes. That is the question. They knew what that word was. They knew what that word meant. They could have written that word into the amendment if they wanted to. They could have done that.
Because people, believe it or not, are imperfect and lack.
Oh my God! Oh, this is the most bleeding heart, living, breathing Constitution. I can interpret it however I want it to be interpreted argument in the history of the universe. This is worse than the most liberal on the Supreme Court would ever argue. My God.
I don't know. America in the 19th century had an awful lot of immigrants. I think that this was probably something they were aware of. In the post-Civil War age, there was more immigrants now, I think, as a percentage of the population there's more immigrants then as a percentage of the population than there is now. Huge numbers of first-generation people coming over from Ireland and Italy and Germany and all the rest of it. Right?
European nations, right?
Yeah.
Right, which is different from like Somalia or, other nations.
I don't even know how different it would have been from like Somalia, because weren't all those countries basically in the 19th century, weren't those like all fucking colonies anyway? Like weren't all those countries colonies anyway? Like all of northern Africa, wasn't it basically like colonized by Europe for it still in the 19th century? I don't know when those all like started to break away, but
This was the moral panic of that time as well. Like, people thought, oh, the Irish and the Italians are going to ruin American culture and all the rest of it. The point is, though,
sure. The people who did this were racist. Yes, that's
not that I'm making the opposite point. I'm making the point that like the people that were writing the 14th Amendment were surely very aware that America had a lot of immigrants and that a lot of these immigrants were not citizens and yet were having children on American soil. So I think it really sort of defies belief to believe.
Maybe I actually don't even know if that's historically accurate. The purpose of the 14th Amendment was in place of Reconstruction. Was during Reconstruction.
But they chose not to say the children of slaves are American citizens. They chose to say any person, which again, living in the context of the America that they lived in, they certainly would have been aware that this would also apply to the children of immigrants. If they had not intended it to apply to the children of immigrants, they would have written something like all children of slaves are American citizens. But they didn't. They wrote it in a very broad, generalized language that from the earliest moments were then understood to apply to the children of immigrants. You know, there's like jurisprudence of like Chinese people that were having children in the
We beg you, stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt when talking to them. It's all just a non-stop Trump apology. People just need to learn more facts, learn more things.